So we are recording now. So welcome to the 5th now QJHA Business Mastery Series. And you can find the other ones, as Kacee and I were just talking about, in the private Facebook group feed, but they're sort of by date. So if you want to find them, you have to chronologically go to like January Business Mastery Series, December Business Mastery. But you can also find them easier in the course itself after the final exam. It's like a separate module after that. And also in our YouTube channel, we have our own YouTube channel, Quantum Journeys Hypnosis. There's session clips, there's podcasts, there's all kinds of stuff there. So if you're not there, I will pop the links of everything into the chat bar here in a minute. And that way you can just, bookmark them. So if you don't see it in the course though, in the Academy, just refresh your browser and it should bring it up for you, because if you haven't accessed it in a while, it might not. Anyway, so these Business Mastery Series calls are held on the 15th of each month. They will be at slightly different times depending on the time zone of the guest host. So like if we have somebody in Australia or New Zealand, then we'll be doing it much later in the day. And we're a global community, so I do want to work with people that are on the other side of the international date line for me to whatever degree I possibly can without being up in the middle of the night. But the whole purpose of these is to introduce different graduates and learn how they're using QJH in their professional practice. So what are they niching in? Their specialties? Do they have any other modalities that they're incorporating? How are they finding their clients? What are their packages look like if they have any? Are they doing one-on-one? Are they doing group? Are they doing corporate? Are they, like all the stuff? And what are their rates? And how did they come up with that? That's something that a lot of people are always like, I don't know what to charge. And I have found that if we have an idea of sort of a baseline, that can be really helpful, and then just adjust for your area to some degree. But it can be helpful because I ran into this thing early on where I wasn't charging nearly enough. And I thought, well, that'll be good because then like I'll get more clients. No, so many things wrong with that. But the one thing that I didn't consider is that it was pissing off my colleagues. Because here's people that have put in the blood, sweat, and tears to come up with these like prices that are really reflective of their experience and their expertise and their education. And here I am coming in and doing half that. How rude of me to do that. So if you're thinking, I don't think I can charge enough because I'm not worth it. Well, maybe your colleagues are. So boost your prices up, baby. Okay. Anyway, I'm really glad to have you here as we continue to expand not only our skills as practitioners, but our ability to run a thriving hypnosis business. And before we dive in, I need just 2 or 3 minutes of your time to do some announcements for everybody. So I don't know if you've heard, hopefully you have, but I'm sooner than expected, but still honored to step in for my former mentor, Roy Hunter, teaching his acclaimed parts therapy class in 2 parts, February 22nd and March 1st. It was originally slated to be like an 8-hour class, and I'm bringing it down to 5, but I can do that because I can be, succinct. And I don't have as many anecdotal stories as he does, right? He's got like 40 years of anecdotal stories. I have 5. We'll be fine. Anyway, so there's still 3 early bird enrollment spots available, and you can take this course with the additional exam fee, which earns you a specialty certification from International Hypnosis Association, or you can just attend to learn, which is less by $100 or more. It's less. I think it's $100. And just deepen your understanding of parts work. And so with that, let me just let somebody in. Even if you continue to utilize ego resource states transformation mostly, what I teach in QJHA, because it's like pretty quick, it's pretty effective. This class will still give you a really well-rounded background in parts therapy as a method, and you'll learn how to set up ideomotor responses and guide multiple parts to negotiate while the client is in a deeper trance. So this could easily become a whole doorway for you to open up the doorway and have them find the parts that they need to have negotiate, right? And you'll just have a much stronger foundation too if you ever end up doing regression work. You absolutely need to have a foundation in parts work before regression, not the other way around. I cannot emphasize that enough. Anyway, so For those of you that are in the call, I'll drop the enrollment link in the chat with all the other links that I'm about to drop once Kacee starts taking over. And then for those of you that are watching later in the private Facebook group or on YouTube or in the Academy, just reach out to me directly and I can get that link to you. All right, so moving on to the very first of 2025's special guest host for the Business Mastery Series. We have a powerhouse of, I don't know, Kacee, you blow me away, just all the different things that you're doing. So we're gonna spotlight her this year or this month, but starting off the year, you're the first one. Kaceee Picot. A little bit about her. She specializes in integrative hypnotic coaching. I noticed just from your website that you do focus in areas like athletic performance, sexual freedom, and healthy weight, which to me is a shining example of how to fully utilize the greater mind-body consciousness connection that quantum journeys hypnosis fits in well with. We are not just a spiritual hypnosis program. People keep getting stuck with that limited thinking, and we're so much more than that. So what makes Kacee's approach so inspiring is that she's built this whole business model in a tiny little town in Colorado, but she's international. And she's just on that verge of kind of taking off. I sense it. I hope she senses it. But she's like riding the wave and she's almost at the top of the wave, right? And so I wanted to make sure that we had her on as the very first guest host for this month and the start of the new year. All right, take it away, Miss Kaceee Picot. And I'm going to highlight you here if you don't mind. There we go. There you go. Look at that beautiful face.
Thank you so much. This is such a huge honor. I was trying to figure out what exactly, because I've done several podcasts, right? And typically it's an interview. So I thought it was going to be an interview style. And I was like, what kind of question? Like I was looking in the wrong places. I was looking in the Facebook group and I didn't search enough for what the format sort of is for this, because I try and go in with some homework having been done, And so
well, I can certainly prompt
this morning, I was like, okay, now it all makes sense. Okay, that's pretty fine.
Oh, good.
So,
okay.
I guess
So how about if you share with us what's your sort of 20 words or less elevator pitch? Like when somebody says, Kacee, what do you do? How do you explain that to them?
I guess most recently I'm in end stages of Karen Bird's sports hypnosis class. And what I liked about it was it's for high performers. So that doesn't just mean athletes, that means performers. So people that are on stage speaking, singing, performing, as well as athletes, as well as salespeople, as well as, so anyone that's got a high pressure gig, it's a 4-session process and it just kind of it's an easy way to get people in at a low price point.
So is that what you're niching in currently? Is that like your primary thing? No. Okay.
No. So, but when I say I specialize in working with high performers, when it's an athlete, it's a couple sessions. When it's an addict, it's 12 sessions. It's a different program, right? So I've taken, I think, everything except Mike Mandel's class. And I'm like, you got to stop the madness, right?
Although honestly, that's the one that I recommend the most.
It seems like
and always have.
Quite frankly, I started HMI. I'm not answering the elevator speech, am I?
Well, I mean, we can get to that, but like, give us the background, and then like when somebody just finds you at the grocery store or something, and oh, you're a hypnotherapist. What do you do? Can you help me? Like, but we'll get to that. Go ahead and tell me a little bit about your background.
It's not such a simple answer anymore because I don't just do one thing. So, started at HMI, which is all about scripts. It's fantastic education, great instructors, but it's pages and pages of scripts. So about 3 months into that, I went on something on an HMI page. And Tracy Young said, are you coming to Hypnothoughts? And I was like, what's Hypnothoughts? What are you talking about? So I looked up Hypnothoughts, and the stuff that kept popping up was Ken Guzzo with his smoking cessation and evolutionary intervention.
Ellie asks, what is HMI, by the way?
HMI is Hypnosis Motivation Institute. So, okay. The reason I went to HMI was because I'd been a hairstylist for 38 years. I had a boyfriend that was living with me at the time, and he said I was working at a space, and he was like, I was looking for other spaces to move into because I bought more body sculpting equipment. Wasn't just doing hair, was trying to do everything, right? So he says, we found this space. It's like, just make it great. I'll cover all the house bills. Just make this great. It's perfect for you. You're gonna do, and it's this beautiful, lots of daylight, gorgeous space. He left 4 days after I opened,
Oh,
and I was
wow.
suicidal. And I started
Oh,
binge listening to stuff on YouTube. And I heard someone say, we get addicted to the chemicals of complaining. And it was Joe Dispenza. And so I started binging on him. So this was right after we were still in the shutdowns. So the first event he was going to do was in January. So I signed up and got into January, not knowing that it's 12,000 people trying to get in and 1,000 get in, and it sells out in 9 minutes.
mm,
So then he says, we're going to do this in November before January. So I get into January, get a room, get all, it all just falls into place. And at the end of that,
wow.
this guy says,
Was
and it
meant
was
to be.
spectacular. And I know a lot of hypnotists think he's crap. I don't care. I don't care. I think he's going to win a Nobel Prize. He's measuring all kinds of things. Like the scientists that are involved in those studies say it takes us 10 years to get the data we get in a week with you
Mm.
guys, right? Because they're measuring blood, urine, biome, tears, breast milk, quantitative EEG. I mean, it's legit. So this guy at the end of it, Robert Radnati, says, I just graduated HMI. It's a hypnosis school. That's where Dr. Joe went. He's hypnotizing us. And I was like, what? That's how it works? Oh, do me. And so later
But
on in
that's
the
how
week,
they all work. I mean, I don't know the last time you've been to church, but that's what the preachers do
yeah,
too. Everybody.
mhm,
That's what
yes,
hypnosis, yeah.
exactly. So, and it was funny because one of the only times he swears in the, like, there's a pre thing. The only time he swears, he said, I was getting ready to go back and I never watched TV, had the TV on just to kind of check the weather, check the news, see if the flights were going to go. And there was a commercial for the shingles virus. And he's watching the thing and he's like, are you fucking kidding? No, ever. Like your body, when you're doing this meditation, if you could just get the brain out of the way and shut the head up, the body knows how to heal itself. You guys are building your anti-cancer, antioxidant, all these immunoglobulin, everything is its own pharmacy. And I was like, what? Right. So I learned that was insanely informational. So then I went to HMI, ended up at Hypnothoughts, took the class with Ken, and was just like, this is way, like, how dare I think I can help a soldier with PTSD? I'm Brian, I'm a hairdresser. I'm still calling myself a hairdresser. And so I just deep dived into the rabbit hole. But so much of my stuff was about scripts. And so when I saw you doing this program, there was an energetic connection, right? I knew that this would help my intuition, and I've been desperately seeking the mystical for years, like trying to build my mediumship, trying to connect to the other side, trying to just have an intuition about stuff that I feel like I'm just dumb to, right? And so, God, the way you deliver it is just so insane. And then the marketing stuff is so over. There's so much information. I'm just blown away by it. So I integrate it into a lot of the things I do. Um, like with my recovery people. So I'll work with people that are in recovery, but not brand new recovery. So I'm 33 years sober. I got sober in June 1st of 1991. And
I'm
the
glad
tough
that
thing
you have like put that boundary there and made that distinction, because there is a huge difference between people who are very new to recovery and people who have been,
yeah,
walking that path for a decade or more.
part of it is with newcomers. I mean, I've sponsored lots of women. Everything's the end of the world, and it really is the end of the world right now. The sky is falling. I don't have time. I don't want to work that hard. I work that hard in AA. I don't need to work that hard in my business. And I don't want a newcomer coming in and saying, she took me in as a client. She should have just sponsored me.
Mm.
Right. So I don't even work with people in my community locally much, it's more online
Mhm.
because I don't want to confuse the line of, like I thought she was doing 12-step work with me and then she charged me for it. Like this is not 12-step
Right.
work. This is a whole different animal. And I incorporate, so my program is more, that piece of it is more for people that aren't in 12-step recovery, don't want to go to meetings, don't want to say they have a disease, don't want to say they're powerless. So it's not just doing the steps. It's much more comprehensive. And I love the metaphysical piece of this that I can incorporate into anything. And they get a different shift that it's it's just different, right? As anyone's taken the course. This isn't 12-step work. This isn't affirmations. This isn't it's deep dive. It's really
You know how
cracking
they
it
say
open.
that hypnosis works from the inside out, whereas
Yeah.
like talk therapy works from the outside in.
Yeah.
I say we
If it
work from the
works.
inside out and also from the top down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Higher self in, but also
Yeah.
inside out. Because yeah, if you want to look at it like we are already spiritual beings and we happen to be having a human experience, we don't have to figure out the metaphysical. We are metaphysical.
Right.
We just get to embody however much of that we want to or feel comfortable with.
Mhm.
But I
Mhm.
love that you're doing both, that you're walking that you've got the clinical and the metaphysical, and you're helping, everyday people, like ordinary people with
Yeah.
extraordinary, you know, things. So like addiction and recovery is an extraordinary thing. Anybody who has been through the throes of addiction, I mean, and they've come out the other side, they have some special superpowers that you can't get any other way, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I would
It's
say the same for, professional athletes, like to have that kind of drive and motivation in spite of losses and failures and, all of that, like that's pretty extraordinary too. So the fact
can
that
you
you're
imagine?
helping with real world problems, but you're able to incorporate the clinical and the metaphysical or
Yeah.
spiritual, as some people say, it's
Like,
beautiful.
can you imagine being the wife of a professional athlete after they lose the game? Like, that's got to be a really uncomfortable house, unless they really can manage their state. And I'm sure that,
I was the wife of a non-professional, very amateur armchair athlete who would get bent out of shape for a week after the Broncos lost. So no thank you on it going
right,
professional. Like that's
right.
enough.
Yeah. And you're like,
He didn't even
it's a
play the game.
game. They can't hear you as much as you scream, right? Yeah. So
So
I
how do
love
you
that
package this? Like how do you
I have
because
a
it sounds
couple
like you
different
do have a yeah, go ahead. I'd like to hear
couple
this.
different so integrative coach, right? First of all, I can't call myself a hypnotherapist in Colorado. I can't call myself a hypnotist in Colorado
Oh,
because they've changed the laws just before like 2020, maybe 18. They changed the laws so that you have to have some kind of a master's degree in some sort of therapy. And if you're in uh, counseling for recovery, you can mark it,
that's happening in North
right?
Carolina too.
So I say
But I thought
hypnotic
Lori
coach. I
Hammond
learned
was
that
still
from
calling
Zoilita
herself.
Grant, who went up against the state for it and spent 30 grand years ago.
Mm,
And so she said, you are safest to call yourself a hypnotic coach. Right. And that really bummed me out for a long time
gotcha.
that I couldn't say hypnotherapist because I was so excited to have the letters behind my name. Like they were important as all the certificates on the wall. Right. Um, it's more
Those
about,
are mostly for my clients, just so that they
right.
can be like, oh, I don't have to ask all the questions about like, where did you train and what did it? I could just be like, just
Yeah.
assume that it's all good so we can move
Yeah.
on to the good stuff, you know?
I've got my big list that I send them when it's like, and I don't even know if it's, I copied it off of somebody else. They had their resume in the thing and they sent it with their contract of when you're signing on for sessions. So it's in that. Um, but it's excessive.
Mhm.
I mean, it's just crazy the things that I've taken, thinking that I'm not enough, right? And when
I
I
think a
work with
lot of
people,
us get stuck in that loop in this industry.
especially
I,
without
I
the
would say
degree,
easily 20% of my colleagues are like clients are colleagues that have that as their issue, maybe more, honestly, but
yeah,
it's at
yeah,
least 20%.
sure. And I
Yeah.
work with coaches, and that's often the thing,
But look
And
at you,
I've
you're
worked with,
doing it. Like
I'm doing it.
you
Yeah,
have this, like, I don't know if I'm enough. I'm going to keep getting all the things. And it sounds like you finally have accepted, like, I don't have to keep doing all the things, right? I,
yeah,
I, I have
yeah,
enough now. But the fact that you still built a business even with that, like you didn't let that stop you. That's the big
Right.
thing right there. You didn't let it become a stop sign. A lot of people
Right.
do. It's just a yield sign that you were like, yeah, okay, but I'm going to
Yeah.
still keep doing the thing. So
Yeah.
that's
So I'm in
kudos.
my new website. It's exquisite. Scott King is helping me with a new website.
Hey, tell me
Um,
what it is and I'll pop it into the chat.
it's the same name. He's just redoing it. It's hypnoawakening.com. But I recorded hundreds of audios with him last year. And when you take his class, you record a bunch of inductions, a bunch of topics, a bunch of everything, because I'm working on a hypnosis show, a comedy show, and I have all the excuses. Well, I don't have any audios to sell. I don't have the website. I don't have, so I'm constantly putting shit in front of my success until I get all my ducks in a row, knowing full well they're not my fucking ducks, right?
Well, and even if you do try to get them all in a row, you're going to miss a few anyway. And then there's a few
Right,
that are going to wander over here. I mean, like I'm the queen of
right,
that. I have to
totally.
put the thing out first and then let the ducks follow.
Right, right. So that's complete. Now what's my excuse for not moving, right? So those audios are all on my website for sale. And I'm thrilled about that. So I feel like each little piece grants me a little bit more credibility, you know? And
Is that sinking in?
yeah,
It is? Okay,
yeah,
good. You're letting that sink in. Good, good,
yeah.
good.
And I've put out some really cool videos lately that I can't take credit for. I hired a guy that uh, I told him what I'm working with. He did a bunch of homework. And we set up a time. He said, okay, have like 5 costume changes. And I had my phone in front of me on a tripod with the lights and and all that. And he's over here on the computer. He's feeding me the lines. I say the line. He feeds the line. I say the line. He feeds the line. I say the line. And I sent all the raw stuff to him. And then he put all these cool graphics in. Right. And people are like, what did you use to make that? And I'm like, call Graham, you know? So,
Beautiful.
so
I've seen
things
a
are
few.
picking up,
Yeah, they look very polished.
right?
Mhm.
Yeah, almost too much. But he's
I
like,
think
trust
they
me.
would probably be great on Facebook and Instagram. They might not work
Yeah,
so well on TikTok because the super polished there gets rejected. But
really?
Instagram, they
Okay,
love that. They love that.
good,
I
good.
bet I bet they're
Yeah,
probably getting some good traction there.
I just struggle with the technology and I have zero bandwidth to learn the technology. I just want to help people,
There's a
I just want to,
lot of us in that. Well, I'm learning it, but I actually enjoy it. So that's
it's the
different. But
over
like, yeah,
40, I didn't grow up with the first computer came out 10 years after I graduated from high school.
yeah.
And I've just been, luckily I know how to type, but I peck and hunt through technology and for some people it's so easy and for me I just get ragey. And I did a hypnosis session for a client of mine who was a realtor and she was in her 80s. And I did one of these processes with her to relieve her anxiety around her computer because she turned it on, she's like, oh, can't find the password. And so she's like, oh my God, that was so helpful. My anxiety went down not just around the computer, but around so many other things. She said,
Mhm.
my son bought me this new Tesla and I took my girlfriends down to Denver. We're driving around. And at some point, somebody pulls in front and the car goes, "Loose." And she was like, what just happened? Right. She couldn't have steered it that quickly to get it around whatever just they avoided.
Right.
And I was so calm. I couldn't believe it. And one of her other girlfriends that was in the car is also a client of mine. She's like, Kacee, we got to the parking lot. I got out. I almost threw up. I was shaking. I was so scared. I was so panicky. So it's like, wow, if it was something that would cause someone else that kind of anxiety and you had none as the driver, that's pretty powerful,
Yeah,
right?
that is. We have a question from
So
Ellie. She
I love,
said,
just making those shifts. And so one appointment type of thing. So
Casey,
I
you
have a lot of clients
sometimes
also that
are freezing up. Can you?
I'm 59, so they're my age or older.
Okay. Oh,
They're
well.
not talking to their kids because of addiction, or their kids aren't talking to them because they were raised with too much money and they didn't struggle enough and they didn't go to camp and they didn't go to soup kitchens. And it's like, this is the thing. So you put your kids through college, private schools, and now they're not talking to you because they didn't suffer enough. I'm like, I've spent 50 years being pissed off that my parents didn't put me through college and I suffered entirely the whole time, right? So it's just, there are so many people that are so fragile and so strong, you know? And so
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
yeah, yeah.
Okay. I don't know if it was me or you or combination, but there was a bit of one of us was frozen for a little while. But you have a question from Ellie. And I think
Oh,
it refers to the videos that you were talking about. I'm not sure if that's what she meant by it, but she said, is it for YouTube or what is the purpose? Ellie, is
ideally
that what
it's,
you were referring to? Is yes, the videos. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
So they're going up on my stories and my Instagram. It's also being loaded into my YouTube as shorts.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
Um, but more to ideally bring in clients. I've gotten a lot of great feedback from other hypnotists, not as much client as I was hoping. But I know things take time, so I'm just going
I
to be
think it's going to
patient
be
with it.
how you strategically position them. So, like, this is just a little tidbit of advice. Scott might give you the
Yes.
same advice. I don't know, but I think they would make great sponsored ads in YouTube, but as shorts, they might not get quite as much traction.
Awesome. Okay. Great sponsor. I'm going to remember that.
Stories on your business profile.
I only have a
Yes.
personal profile.
Oh, okay. Okay. It might be worth getting a business profile. I don't know. They're free. Just
I
a
know
thought,
they're all free. It's
but
just so many things to manage,
yeah.
you
Well, I
know?
mean, all you do is click a button, then you're like over into the new one. So, I wanted to ask, so like, do you have, it sounds like you have packages because you have 12 for people that are in
Oh,
recovery that are wanting to up-level their life, and then you
yep,
have
yep,
some for sports performance. What
yep.
else? And like, what's
Smoking
your,
cessation is one appointment, right? With Ken's process. Um,
okay, so you do smoking also. Okay.
mhm. I think I probably charge too much. When I talked to Jason Lynette early on, he goes, out of the gate, I want you to charge $300 an hour. So my 4 session sports thing is $1,200. My single session is 325. That 12 session package for addicts. It's not just addicts, it's people in recovery. So people in codependence recovery too.
Okay.
And
Okay.
in it, I incorporate CODA, some AA, but not steps and not like I've turned it a little bit. I've I went through Wendy Friesen's course and she's someone who's anti-AA, anti-rehab, like hates it. And she has some good points, right?
Hmm,
So,
hmm. So that's
and I
12 sessions. And how much do you
all
charge for
sessions is
that?
4,500.
Okay. And then, so your sessions are an hour, 2 hours? How long are they?
The sport for longer. Other things, I give myself 2 hours because sometimes it takes 90 minutes,
Hmm,
right?
hmm.
So it needs to bleed into a higher price, right?
I did try to go back, cut mine back down to like 60-minute increments, and I can do that for subsequent sessions, but the first session I need at
Sure.
least 90 minutes. So I just went back to my old way, which is 90 minutes, but we might need the full 2 hours. And
Right.
then subsequent sessions, I'm like, just count on 90 minutes. And that way we have a little bit of time to sort of like
Yeah.
decompress afterwards too. So yeah,
And then you don't feel like you're actually 50 minutes because you want the 10 minutes to make sure that they're fully out, right?
right.
And you feel like you're delivering something that's,
I feel like that's a rush with QJH anyway. I could do that
yeah,
with other like more clinical hypnosis. I could do that,
yeah,
but I feel like with QJH, when somebody's channeling their higher self or some other aspect of consciousness, you're not going to be like, "Oh, sorry, time's up. Shut the door." you
right.
know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So I like to give them as much time as they need. Um, I love the uh, resource states
mhm.
that you've built into it. That's so huge because so many people, when they get to us, like when they get to a 12-step program, it's the last house on the block, right? I've tried everything, nothing works. And sometimes they just want to come to say one more thing doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Sometimes they
and I
want to
love,
have that excuse of just being able to. I've tried everything and nothing works, and so I'm going to just go back to the old ways.
yeah, I thought
Um,
you were going to make me quit this thing.
yeah.
And I've seen a video or a Facebook ad that says, we will make you quit drinking. We will make you quit smoking. I'm like,
I've seen that too. Yeah.
"Ah." So,
Yeah. A bit of
and I
false
incorporate some
advertising.
Neville Goddard into it also. So it's like, okay,
And
so
I didn't come up with resource states, by the way. That's Gordon Emerson.
Right.
And then Mike Mandel put his own twist on it with the transformation. And so I use that as well. And then I've like played around with it a little too, but mostly I stick with Gordon Emerson, Mike Mandel's, blueprint. So
Because it works.
yeah, and I find it rapid and elegant, and it doesn't require a deep trance state. And the whole reason I even put it into QJHA is for those clients that show up with an anxious part about the session or a hesitant part about the session, or they can't seem to get into a relaxed enough state or into a trance state. So then I'm like, well, let's pull this handy little tool out. Only takes 10 to 15 minutes.
Right.
Um, but
And that's why you don't want to
it's
limit it
not
to an hour.
traditional parts therapy. Like it's not going to work for
Right.
everything, but it will work for the thing that's showing up the most, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I don't want to say we only have this much time because it's like, because,
You might have to
the
do
issue,
some of that. Yeah, exactly.
and the issue is never the issue, right? It's
Right.
3 sessions in when you're like, oh, there was an abuse. You didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's
Well,
do a
and
little
I
more.
mean, honestly, I don't even ask about stuff like that anymore. If they bring it up, but I'm not going to ask their whole history. Was there a situation of abuse? Was it, tell me about
Right.
every
But
trauma
sometimes
you've
it'll
ever
come up
had.
in something comes up in the session and you're like,
That means they're ready to work on it.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I reassure people, listen, nothing that's going to pop up here is coming up unless it's ready to be processed
Right.
because
As
your
long as
nervous
you
system.
use the model of their highest self leading the way, because I do know that there's other types of more traditional hypnosis where they go digging into the pain, and then maybe the person doesn't have the abilities to process that yet.
Right.
So
And I don't think
yeah,
that, I keep hearing people, you have to feel it to heal it. I'm like, no, I don't know if I think that. I don't need to dig up and resurrect the bodies. We don't need to go back to the scene of the crime and relive this crime. That's what EMDR is for. Do that
right.
there.
I do actually think you have to feel it to heal it, but I have a completely different take on what that means. I don't think that means you go grab it and feel it. I think if it
Right.
comes up naturally and you feel it, that means it's telling you it's time to heal it.
Yeah. But let's
Yeah,
not go looking for problems. You
exactly.
know,
Yeah, exactly. I'm
like
not gonna
don't
if there's scar tissue there and that seems to be working, leave it alone. And if
absolutely.
if it needs healing, it will come up on its own. I don't have to go digging around, opening up the old wounds. Um, does anybody have any questions? Let me unspotlight you so we can see what other people might want to ask, because we're already at, 40 minutes in and you're doing great. And I just want to make sure we're not ignoring anyone. Do we have any questions at all? On packages, how she incorporates the different trainings. Um, she already kind of went over how she came up with her pricing. How are you getting clients locally? Ellie wants to know.
I have Google ads for local. It's such a learning curve to what to say and what not to say, and how big your circle should be as far as your ads go, and I learned so much in the marketing class that you have to
Which, by
just
the
all
way,
the
I am
AI
turning into
stuff.
a whole evergreen product. So very soon that will be available to anybody who hasn't taken it
It's
yet.
spectacular.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks.
I
I
mean,
put a
it's
lot into
just
it.
so comprehensive, you know.
You know why I
Uh,
put a lot into it? Because when I first said that I was going to offer that, I was like, who the hell am I to offer marketing? I don't know
right.
marketing. So I learned everything I could. I paid all the
Mhm.
big boys. I was like,
Yep.
I'm going to over deliver, because that way at least I know they're getting something out of it. So
And
now
you
I
always
feel
have to
like
do
I
it.
actually got all the information because I had to in order to teach the class.
Yeah. Yeah. I need to go back through that and implement more things. 'Cause sometimes it's so much that I'm just like, oh, okay, where do I start? And then I'm like, oh, paralyzed.
So are you doing anything locally as far as in-person stuff, or like
Mhm.
talking about what you do, or doing any
Yeah.
kind of like, groups, stuff like
Yeah.
that? Yeah.
I've spoken at Rotary in Vale and in Aspen,
Beautiful.
and I've made these beautiful postcards for the sports stuff because I can send it to all the golf courses and things like that. And I'm able to incorporate some of the QJH in it because you just figure out where it's going to go, right?
Well,
And
and if you just don't say the word spiritual, nobody would ever know that it's spiritual. Like, hello. Like we
nope,
tend to give it this limiting belief of like, oh, it's only for past lives and Akashic
metaphysical.
records, and it's so much more. So
Yeah.
if we stop limiting it and just use
Yeah.
verbiage that is understandable by the masses, then we can
Right.
use it on, with anyone.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you
I'm
figured
in
that out.
I'm in Sarasota right now, and my friend Adriana has helped me make a little thing for the local community here and just
I was
to do like
wondering
a
if
little
that was a
promo.
backdrop or if that's really where you are right now.
No, it's this is my guy's house.
This is great.
I was here he lost all of his yard to the hurricane.
Oh, wow.
Um and all of the landscaping. So he's got the trees still and some rocks. But I was on with Jim Kellner and the guys last October before the hurricane, and Jim was like, dude, if you guys ever break up, give him my number. I love
That's
him.
great. Yeah,
So
I miss him.
yeah, he's still with us, you know.
I feel that too. Actually, I've
I've
had a
had
few
a
full-on conversations with him, like
have you?
not
Okay,
in
cool.
the past few days, but like
I
the
brought him
week
skiing with
after.
me, and I went like 20 miles an hour faster in my turns with him with the extra
Wow.
weight and the extra enthusiasm. And I'm just having a hard time with
That's great.
I know that the conference next week will be intense because that's his conference, his and Grant's. But with all the metaphysical, the mediumship classes I've taken, I'm just not sad for people as much as I was anymore. I'm sad for the people that are left, but I'm just
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
so I haven't posted anything, and I will, but I just haven't figured out how to put it into words that this isn't sad. He's thrilled, and he's with us everywhere, and he's just, it's all divinely perfect, you know? Like these fires are divine perfection. We're going to see what happens through it. We may or may not get the lesson in this lifetime, but it's all in divine perfection. So we just have to trust that.
Ellie, we're talking about a colleague named Jim Kellner, who he's a performing hypnotist and also a hypnotherapist. And he had at least one podcast, Hypnosis Heroes. I feel like I've seen him do something else too, but I can't think of what it is. And he had
Yeah.
several different Facebook
He was
groups,
on
and
with Victoria for a while.
yeah, maybe that's what I'm thinking of. Um, so he passed away unexpectedly the day after Christmas, just really unexpectedly. Like we were just on a podcast together where we were teasing each other about the fact that we're pretty much the same age. So like
A week
when he
before, yeah.
passed, that was a massive blow to like, oh, I wake up call, Kryssa. Maybe you need to take better care of yourself, woman.
Yeah.
So that was, yeah. Anyway, but okay, so I want to, just because this is the Business Mastery series, as much as I love Jim, I think he would totally understand that I'm going to redirect the focus
Yes, yes.
into what we're
Mhm.
talking about. Okay, so Google Ads and then Rotary Club. Are you in the Chamber of Commerce? Are you doing any other like local
There
stuff like
isn't
that?
one here. It's more,
And what else did
it's
you say
super small.
besides Rotary Club? There was something else.
I've made these beautiful postcards, so I'm sending out postcards to the schools and the golf clubs and the tennis clubs and the gyms and all that stuff for
Beautiful.
the sports stuff. Um, and just, local Facebook groups.
Yeah. And Ellie wants to know more about the postcards.
Beautiful. They're upstairs. I can put one in the group later. They're
Perfect.
big, and
Yeah.
they've got like
Yeah, just take a picture, or if you have a virtual picture on, your computer,
yeah,
just share that with us.
yeah,
Beautiful.
and it has a QR code on the back. It's mostly for the sports
I use
piece
QR
because I
codes for
can send it
everything
to the
too.
schools. Yeah,
Here's my business card, and it's even on my phone.
yeah,
My QR code.
right. That's great.
Yeah, it's just so much easier.
I didn't want to
Yeah.
put my phone number on it because I didn't want people calling me because I just, as a hairdresser, I'm like, do not call me at 7:30 on a Sunday for an appointment 3 months from now.
Yep.
So, but that's not happening with hypnosis. So there's my front, and the back is pretty much just the QR code.
Beautiful.
Right.
I love it. I love it. That's
So
the
the
business
postcards are,
card.
yeah,
Mhm.
the postcards are big and cool. And then local, uh, I don't want to advertise a ton too much locally because I travel so much. So I'm really probably only 30% of the time.
Right, right. I'm finding that, well, so I moved here less than 2 years ago and kind of had to start from scratch with the local scene. And I am finally starting to get some traction, but I am not paying for Google Ads. I do have a Google listing, but I'm not paying for ads. But I've already moved up to like the fifth spot, and now I'm in a big city, so there's like 20 of us. And
Awesome.
I didn't do anything, no SEO. I think it's just from reviews, and I don't know. But I have been
Who
getting a
does
lot
that?
of word of mouth, which thank God, because you're not going to find me talking at the Rotary Club. I mean, I'm just not going to do that. I'm sorry. I'm kind of an introvert. And it's not that
I'm
I'm
not too.
afraid. I can get on stage and do all that. I just prefer not to. I would much rather hang out in my garden and get my beans to climb up the trellis properly instead of like wrangling a bunch of humans. Beans are so much easier. So,
Mhm.
but I'm glad that that's working out for you. And I think for people that really do want a local um, following, and that's more important than the international thing, then
Mhm.
doing those things that Kacee's talking about, going to the high schools, offering even just simple mindfulness practices. You don't even have to say, I'm going to hypnotize you. You can just be like, hey, I just want to help you with some tools to help. Like right before
Thought
exam
stopping.
time would be a great time to just be like, hey, can I come in and talk to your seniors who are, going to be graduating soon and taking all these exams about like how to manage their anxiety and stress levels? Because that's a big thing to go through,
Yeah.
graduation. Um, Talking to these other groups. Um, what's the one that's all about learning how to do public speaking?
BNI
Mm, no,
or Toastmasters.
Toastmasters, that
Oh,
one. I
I'm in
did
a tiny little town.
I did a guest spot on Toastmasters in Bozeman, and I mean, like I think there was only 12 members that day,
Right.
but they each one of them pretty much did reach out to me, and then they told their friends, like it had this massive ripple effect. So like if I were to do that here, I'm sure that I would pick up even more local clients. I'm pretty happy with the number of clients I have right now, honestly. I have like roughly 10 a week, and that's fine. I don't want
Yeah.
more. I'm good with that.
Mhm.
When I get more than that, I start to feel a little claustrophobic. Like my schedule is closing in on me, and I like to be able to have some freedom to do stuff other
Mhm.
than just work. And I would like to even maybe cut back to even like 6 or 8 and just put more into the group stuff in the classes and whatever. But but what I did discover is that like the group in-person things that you can do have a massive effect. They
Oh
really
yeah.
do. But as long as they're strategically placed, because I did do one at a senior center and that went nowhere. It was great for the seniors. I'm so happy I did it, but it didn't go anywhere. Like not one single paid session at
Yeah.
all. And
No,
that's
that's
okay.
more
I was
service work.
still, yeah, exactly.
Expect that that's going to be service work. They're not going to
Exactly.
invest in their future,
And I
understandably.
knew that going in,
Yeah.
but I'm just like sharing, like, and doing it with high school students, you might not get many actual clients either, unless you have a niche that could help them specifically, that their parents are like, oh, did you find some
Yeah.
rapport with this person? Would you like some help? Um, but yeah, Rotary Club, Toastmasters, all those guys, Chamber of Commerce, the business to business networking things, those are good too.
The sports thing is good for high schools because, like where I am, it's the top of the food chain. These high schools do fundraisers and they bought their football players NFL helmets. They're $1,300 each. They're not afraid to put money into their kids' sports.
Well, you live in Vail, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then
there's
my
there's
boyfriend
some
has
money
a
there.
place in Aspen and Sarasota. It's a higher end clientele.
Mhm.
So if it's not high enough, they're like, it must not be very good. Like you
Exactly.
really have to, there's a it's not necessarily get what you pay for, but there is an impression that if something costs more, it must be better. And then there's more buy-in. They have more skin in the game. They have more expectation. And if they have a good expectation of a good outcome, then they get a better outcome.
And those are the ones that will want to talk about you and how great it
Right.
was
Yeah.
because they did put more skin in the game and they want to share that. I feel like if somebody's just like kicking the tires and looking for the cheapest person to help them, they're not going to be as committed. And then they're not going to spread word of mouth because they've got some
Right.
shame about it. Like, I don't want
And
anybody to know that I need that or want that.
cool thing with athletes is they tell people, then you
Yeah.
get the sister that's got the food issue or the anxiety, then you get the mom who's not sleeping, right?
Oh yeah, I
Um,
have
but
whole entire families. It's so
yeah,
funny. There's this one woman in Dubai hired me for one thing, and now I've seen her husband, his sister, their mom. Like it just keeps going on and on and on. And there's
yeah,
a bunch of people in Bozeman, Montana, where like I started with one sister, and then her sister, and then their sister, and then that sister's husband, and then one of
Huh?
the kids. Like just, yeah, it's, I love that when that happens.
Yeah. Well, the athletes too, they go, they've been putting in 50 hours a week with
And that's a pretty close-knit
practice,
family when they're working with each other and training
but they're
together.
more willing to do the work because they're already on a routine of practice.
Right.
It's like, okay, and you look at the post-it on your mirror and you say, I'm the best wrestler, I'm the best tennis player, I'm the best skier, and you listen to the thing on your way to the game. They do the homework.
Right. And they're very goal-oriented.
Yeah.
So you're
Yeah.
not fighting with them about the change. They want
Right.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And basically you're giving them a permission slip to have it. You're saying like,
Totally.
here, you can have
Totally.
this change.
But the thought stopping with that is so huge for everybody, So I've included that into a lot of things. It's like, okay, what are you doing? Don't, and then that's part of the Neville Goddard
As far
piece
as like
I
the
bring in.
intrusive thoughts of like, what happens if I'm not good enough? Is that what you mean when
Right.
you say
Yeah.
thought
What happens
stopping?
if you're
Mhm.
great? Right.
Yeah.
And past performance has nothing to do with the future, right? So if everything is predicated on your past and you didn't have this information in your past and you set that on your future, sure, you're going to but now you have new information.
Right.
Now we know about neuroplasticity. Now we know that our thoughts become things. Now we know that if the past didn't go well, what were you telling yourself? And if you continue to tell yourself that, just stay there. What if you told yourself this? And what if that were true? And you can create that,
Yes.
right? Because you can.
Exactly.
So that's not, this neuroplasticity that we didn't have knowledge of. We were told when we were kids, like brain damage, the brain doesn't heal. And now we know differently.
Well, for a good 3 decades, we've known differently, but we haven't mapped it over into all of the various areas that it can be. And I love what you said about um, you are not your past. There's no reason to bring that with you. I've done a lot of research into um, not just memories, how they're created and consolidated, but why do we have them? Why do we have memory? And for purely biological processes, the only reason we have memory, and this
Survival.
is why the default is just so that we can be aware of a risk. That's it. So we have
Caveman
memories
days.
to
Cavemen.
keep us safe,
Nothing has changed since the freaking
which is
cavemen.
why the default mode is always going to be like looking for threats. You have to rewire that. And it's also why when we re-access a memory, we're never going to access it exactly the way that we experienced it that first time.
No.
It's going to be colored through the lens of whatever mindset we're in. So if we're accessing a memory through the mindset of feeling threatened, now we're going to impose some threatening things upon that memory. If we're accessing it through gratitude, we're going to see a whole different memory
Yep.
pop up, even though it's the
Yep.
same experience. And so, yeah, cutting yourself off from how things happened in the past is going to be, I think, probably the biggest indicator of being able to move forward and do things differently and broaden your comfort zone and try new things. Just like a tiny little baby doesn't have all those subconscious parts with the fear
No.
because they don't have
Yeah.
memories yet, right? And so they don't
Right.
know if I stand up, I might fall down. They stand
Nope.
up and they don't go like, oh, I fell down. I guess I'm never going to walk again. That's done. I've done it. I've tried it. It's for other babies. It's not for me.
Exactly.
No, they're just like, I don't have any reason not to. I'm going to try it again.
Everybody else is walking.
Yeah, look
Right?
at them. They're all walking. I can clearly walk. I have like
Yeah.
magical powers. I just haven't accessed them yet. Right?
My talk last year at Hypnothoughts in Heartland was called "Who Would You Be Without Your Story?"
Yeah. I saw that
Because
title. That was very intriguing. I like the
I didn't
title.
realize that there was also a best-selling book by Byron Katie called. I'm like, I thought I made that up. I'm aware of
Oh,
her. I'm
whoops.
familiar with her work.
You know what? Collective consciousness. Sometimes things
Exactly.
drop into multiple people's heads with that. Like I didn't know that there was somebody else that was using, they don't call it the hallway of answers, but a hallway type metaphor.
Sure. Yeah.
It came to me fully formed and I was like, well, that's what we're going to do. And then,
Right.
later somebody else says, oh, so-and-so is using a hallway too. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that's fine. If I had gotten
Yeah.
it from that person, I would credit that person, but I did
Sure.
not. I
Yeah.
got it all
Yeah.
on my own.
No, it's great.
Oh, Ellie says, do you do a free consult prior to the session? I'm looking for a better use of time to get the package purchased versus one
Yeah.
session.
Yeah. My intake is super comprehensive. So it asks all kinds of stuff about, the normal 10 questions. But it also asks about your respiratory system, your sexual system, your shoulder, your body, your joints, skin issues, blood issues, because I feel like if like for me, right shoulder, masculine, fear of, feeling like everything's on top of me, no support. I need support. I need a man to help me. That comes from a father wound, right? If we can heal up that emotional bit, the shoulder goes, the pain goes away,
As long
right?
as you know what it means for them, like just
If
because
it's
that means
attached.
that for you,
Right,
it doesn't,
right.
this is a sticking point for me. We can read all these books, Louise Hay and whatever else about like what an ailment means, but
Mhm.
rather than that's kind of imposing our belief, or somebody else's belief.
Well,
So if we go in and ask while they're in a trance, what is this
exactly.
from? Then we're going to get
Yeah.
that information. Yeah.
What it does is it starts to open up their idea to, maybe this isn't my stuff. Maybe it's attached to something
Yes.
I haven't
Yes.
healed. I clearly have unhealed things. And so then if you have, and nobody has just one, people have gastric issues, or they have skin issues, or they have, ED, or stuff that it's almost a convincer. It's like, well, considering the things that I'd like to work with you on, it's pretty comprehensive. It didn't happen in a year. These things you've probably been arguing with for a long time.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
then once you get them in, what is that attached to? What is that? Is that this
Right.
lifetime? Is it a past lifetime? Is it, and, but it's more of a convincer or a selling point to, there are a lot of things that can be addressed with hypnosis. And this is why it's a bigger package, because you probably can use several things to
Yeah.
alleviate these,
Yeah, and coming at it from multiple different directions. So
Yeah.
Shelley has two questions. One, what do you charge for your group sports hypnosis? And then is your comedy hypnosis show unique or different from the mainstream stage hypnosis, since you do have all these different sort of tools?
I haven't seen the sports hypnosis. When I go and do a group talk, it's a free talk to get them into one-on-one stuff. If I do a group like at a school, I would charge what I would charge for a regular session. So, $300. But I'm more there to enroll them into one. Unless it's the entire team wants to do it, then the original team talk, I call it, kind of goes through a little bit of uh, a process with them. So, it talks about how when you're relaxed, you're just more adept. You're more able to be ready for the ball, be ready to react, be ready, on the court, on the slopes, whatever it is. So I go through a relaxation with them. But when they're with me one-on-one, I say, okay, walk me through your perfect game, run, race, match, whatever it is. Um, and some kids have, oh, I dropped my shoulder. Others are, I'm leaning too far forward, or and it's kind of like, what is your coach? What is your mom? What do you keep hearing your parents say? I notice every time you do this, you're in the back seat,
But
you're
these are
whatever the
free.
thing
This
is.
isn't, you're not charging for the group stuff. That's all.
I don't charge for the group stuff. It's more
Okay.
to get them into a one-on-one.
Right.
And
Gotcha.
I'm
I
sure that I
understand.
will be doing some team stuff, and that's when it would just be whatever
Right.
unless it's a huge group, then it's gonna be a corporate rate, right?
Right.
Um, what was the second question?
The second one is your comedy
Oh, the
hypnosis
show.
show. What makes it unique or different from mainstream
Okay,
stage hypnosis?
being in 12-step, I want to, the show right now that I've written it's just one, like, performing hypnotists have several, three or four or five shows that they do. So my first show is more on skiing, and it's the typical stuff, just so I can get one under my belt and memorize it and make sure that I know it and it's funny. If it's not
Mhm.
funny, forget it.
I want to see all
And
those people standing up on the stage pretending like they're skiing, doing a
yeah,
slalom.
well, it's the one that I've come up with. It's funny. It's like, okay, so the typical hot and cold. You're going up from the airport. The guy won't turn the heat off. You're roasting. It's blowing right on you. You're hot.
Yeah.
And now they stop go to the bathroom, and you get stuck outside. You missed it. You took off, and now you're freezing. Help the person next to you warm up. And then they stole the snow cat. It's the fastest cat. You're gonna have to come up with an excuse, or they're gonna arrest you. Where's your ID? What do you mean you don't have your ID? What's your name? What do you mean you can't remember your name? So then they don't know their name. Does
That's
anybody know
great.
this guy's name? Do you have ID? Who's with him? Right? And then if you can come up with the best excuse, maybe they won't give you a ticket. Maybe they won't arrest you. What's a good excuse for him? What's a good excuse for him? What should he tell the guy? First, oh, you're pregnant. Oh, you're pregnant. He's pregnant. Okay, you're the doctor. You're the nurse. He's 9 months. You're gonna have the baby right now. You guys jump in. Get the baby. And then it goes into there's not enough oxygen. We're at 12,000 feet. You don't have enough oxygen. Your left shoe is your oxygen mask. Put your oxygen mask on. Help your neighbor. Help your neighbor. They need oxygen. They can't breathe. It's a high altitude. So it's mayhem. It's crazy. And it's hilarious when people are up there with a shoe. And then, I'll go to
That sounds
one
like fun.
guy. It's just insanity. Like, what do you mean you're thirsty? I'm giving you water. You can't drink it. You can't drink the water. You can't get it in your mouth. And they're spilling it all down there. Like, I don't know why I can't get it in my mouth. So it's
He has a
it's
drinking problem.
but I'd like to turn it into a program for 12 step, for like to do the AA conventions and the big things that I've attended, and they're hilarious. And I just have to do make it something more relevant to 12 step stuff.
Oh, I can think of one thing. You could have everybody's only allowed to speak in bumper stickers and slogans.
Perfect.
Because
That's
AA
awesome.
has so many,
Right?
so many,
Yeah.
hundreds, thousands. Oh my
So
gosh. So each,
yeah,
like the whole conversation will just be like, slogan, 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 slogan.
right. That's awesome. Yeah. So that's, I'd like to niche it into that. But the people I'm working with are on cruise ships and are doing big corporate gigs. And I'm like, okay, that's amazing. I would love to do that, so.
Well, we're at the top of the hour. So let me just, before we say goodbye, does anybody else have any last minute questions? Somebody else just popped off, I think. So I don't know who that was. Anyway, is there anybody else that would like to ask any questions? No? Thank you so much, Kacee. This was fun. I can't wait to see your comedy hypnosis show. And yeah, just keeping an eye on what you're doing in the world. I mean, yeah, you got on a TV show, you've been on some podcasts, you're getting out there. That's all fantastic. See
Thank you so
Kacee
much for having
go.
me here.
All right, take care, my dear.
Thank you,
Mwah. See
love.
you
This
next
was
month, everyone.
delightful.
The
Thank you
15th
so
of
much.
February. I don't know who the 15th of February is at the moment. I can't remember if I already scheduled that person. Anyway, I will let you know.
When you put it up, would you put the time?
Yeah.
Because if it's US, it's always noon, but it's not always the US. So if you'll add the time, it would be easier
I
for me to
always
be like,
have up until this one, and I just had
ah,
too much on my plate-itis going on. I
got it.
was multitasking. So I did send out an immediate email after the one that didn't have the time zone with the time zone, but it was interesting
Okay.
that people saw the one without the time zone, but not the one with the time zone. So I was like, well, what can you do? Anyway, yeah, what I really need is an assistant. That's what I really
Okay.
need. Yes.
You got
All right.
skills.
Well, I don't know. Those are not my skills. That organizational stuff. No,
No,
does
no,
not
you
come
can get an
naturally.
assistant. You
Yeah.
could get skills to hire an assistant.
Right, but then I have to have the organizational skills to manage the assistant. What I need is a psychic assistant. So I don't have to manage them. They'll just be like, I know exactly what you need, and I happen to be able to do that. Here you go. And
Okay.
I'll be like,
So my
here's my
guides,
money.
yeah.
Here's my
So
money.
my guides, go find the guides of the person that's going to perfectly fit this position and bring them to me.
They did find one, but she has another full-time job, so she just does it for fun on the side to help me out. And that means that she's not my dedicated assistant, which means there's a bunch of stuff that she doesn't have time for. So I need one of her. I need a clone of her.
Okay. So you brought one, bring another.
Who doesn't have another full-time job. So yeah,
Really?
anyway. All right. Well, my dear, thank you so much. And we'll see you the 15th of next month. If you're interested in the parts therapy class, it is going to be 2 different days, a week apart. It does come with certification, and we're deep diving hardcore into parts therapy. You will have no question how to use it after this class. So, all right. Take care. Bye.
Thank you.